In the frozen wilderness of the Arctic, where temperatures fall below anything humans should endure, legends speak of a place forgotten by time. A Japanese military outpost built during the final years of World War II. Buried by snow and sealed beneath centuries of ice, it has never been officially uncovered. But stories persist that something still lies waiting beneath. As World War II dragged into its desperate final phase, Japan faced an urgent question: how to regain control of the Pacific. Traditional warfare was no longer enough. The solution, whispered in classified military councils, was to create forward bases in extreme, remote regions, invisible to radar and unreachable by ships. Codenamed Operation Ice Fortress, this mission aimed to establish hidden weather and research stations in the polar zones. Officially, they were for meteorological observation. Unofficially, they were for something far darker: tracking Allied movements, developing cold weather weaponry, and storing data too sensitive for mainland Japan. The Arctic Circle was no man's land. Few would dare enter, and fewer would survive. For Japan, it was the perfect place to vanish in plain sight. Satellite images didn't exist, and even aircraft struggled against the violent winds and endless night. It was, ironically, a perfect hiding spot for a nation losing ground. In late 1943, a small group of engineers, soldiers, and scientists set sail under heavy disguise. Their ship, recorded only as Kaya Maru, vanished from Japanese naval logs shortly after. What they carried aboard, generators, radio equipment, and experimental tools, remains one of the great mysteries of the war. According to declassified testimonies decades later, the team landed on an ice shelf along a region near the Arctic archipelago. They built prefabricated huts beneath layers of snow, camouflaged against aerial reconnaissance. The structure was designed to last decades, powered by buried fuel cells and geothermal heat. Military experts later debated how Japan could have achieved such a feat. The logistics alone were near impossible, transporting steel, fuel, and manpower across thousands of kilometers of hostile terrain. Yet evidence, faint but persistent, suggests they did exactly that. In February 1944, Allied listening posts intercepted a strange signal in Morse code. It wasn't Russian, American, or German. Linguists eventually recognized fragments of Japanese syntax embedded in a scientific data pattern. The transmission was never decoded. By early 1945, the mysterious signals ceased. Allied intelligence assumed the base had failed, perhaps crushed by shifting ice or abandoned when supplies ran out. But what if it hadn't? Over the next decades, the Arctic swallowed everything human left behind. Ice expands, contracts, and buries all trace. Planes, submarines, even entire stations vanish beneath it. So when researchers in the 1970s reported metal readings under a deep glacier, most dismissed it as natural minerals. A Soviet survey aircraft picked up a faint magnetic anomaly beneath the ice north of Greenland. The pattern was too regular to be natural. Rectangular shapes, possibly tunnels. Soviet scientists quietly noted, possible World War II origin, unknown nationality. 2 years later, the file vanished from Soviet archives. No one spoke of it again. But whispers grew among Cold War researchers that a Japanese Arctic structure existed, sealed so deep that it became one with the ice itself. In 2012, a group of climate scientists using ground-penetrating radar near the same area recorded reflections consistent with man-made materials. Bolted steel, a buried chamber, something hollow beneath centuries of compacted snow. When they cross-referenced the coordinates with historical naval maps, an anomaly emerged: the last recorded path of the lost Kaya Maru. ended just 300 miles from that site. Could the ship have succeeded in its mission after all? If so, what happened to the men who built it? No records mention their return. Their families received no death certificates. It's as though the expedition was erased from history, intentionally or otherwise. Japan's wartime scientists were masters of compartmentalization. Many projects were isolated, so that even military officials couldn't access full details. This secrecy explains why the Arctic base, if real, never appeared in post-war tribunals or reconstruction documents. Declassified Japanese science notes from 1944 mention cryogenic survival tests and ice-adapted biomaterial storage. Some believe the Arctic base was less about observation and more about preservation. Rumors grew that the outpost was meant to test whether certain bacteria, fuels, or even biological agents could survive extreme cold. A morbid insurance policy for a war that was turning against Japan. When news of Japan's imminent defeat reached the Arctic, the isolated team may have chosen to seal themselves and their work away, burying everything under reinforced snow before the Allies could find them. In the decades since, climatologists have noted strange readings in that region: methane surges, trapped gases, and unexplained power fluctuations. Some suggest old generators might still be buried, frozen yet intact, slowly corroding. Modern scientists warn that melting ice could eventually expose this hidden base. And if it contains old fuel, chemicals, or biological material, the release could have dangerous consequences. When questioned, Japanese historical institutes deny all knowledge of such a mission. Yet internal letters from 1943 refer cryptically to the Polar Unit and Project White Silence. In 2016, anonymous posts on a dark web forum claimed to have found partial coordinates to the lost base. The data, supposedly from Soviet satellite scans, pointed toward an area never officially explored. Several private researchers attempted to reach the site, but none succeeded. Equipment failed. GPS signals scrambled. 2 expeditions reported electronic interference, as if something beneath the ice emitted residual electromagnetic energy. One team recovered fragments of alloy resembling late-war Japanese submarine plating. The metal's composition, nickel and manganese-rich steel, matched 1940s Japanese naval technology. When an ice core sample from near the anomaly was analyzed, scientists found traces of industrial lubricant unknown to the region. Another piece of evidence pointing toward human presence. Historians, puzzled by the scattered clues and fragmented records, eventually gave the site a name: Kogo Kichi, meaning the hidden base. No official documentation used this term, but it spread through academic circles like a ghost story, passed from one researcher to another. The name itself became a symbol of everything unknowable about Japan's final wartime months, a phrase whispered in conferences and dismissed in official reports. Yet those who studied it closely couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just another myth. The consistency of details across unrelated sources hinted at something real, something deliberately buried, not just beneath the ice, but beneath layers of denial. As rumors grew, the question became not whether the base existed, but what was inside it. Some argued it was merely a weather station, one of many Japan built during the war. Others insisted it was a data vault, holding research so advanced it was hidden to prevent Allied capture. A third theory, whispered among intelligence veterans, was more unsettling: that it housed biological or chemical stockpiles, preserved perfectly in sub-zero conditions. What if the ice itself was the world's most secure containment system? And what if, as the Arctic melts, that containment is slowly breaking down? In 2013, researchers conducting atmospheric studies noted an inexplicable temperature depression over a small region near the Greenland ice sheet, just a few miles from the alleged coordinates of Kogo Kichi. It wasn't natural. Thermal scans revealed a perfect circular cold zone, as though something beneath the surface was actively absorbing heat. Theories exploded online. Some claimed it was residual cryogenic machinery still operating. Other modern radar imaging would later reveal what appeared to be a tunnel, wide, rectangular, and descending deep into the glacier. The entrance, however, was long collapsed. The idea that a constructed passageway could survive for 80 years beneath such crushing ice seemed impossible, yet the geometry was undeniable. Scientists estimated that if cleared, the tunnel might lead to a central chamber the size of a small bunker. Inside could be everything from rusted instruments to preserved human remains. The world had seen forgotten bunkers before, but none so inaccessible or so frozen in time. The potential discovery of Kogo Kichi divided the scientific community. Should we uncover what lies beneath, or should we leave it entombed? Some researchers argued that history demands the truth, that every buried secret must one day face daylight. But others warned of contamination, not just biological, but moral. If the base truly contained evidence of human experimentation, would unsealing it honor the past or desecrate it? Governments quietly debated legal jurisdiction, but no one wanted to be the first to disturb the ice. Kogo Kichi isn't the only forgotten relic of war buried under frozen worlds. Nazi Germany had its Schatzgräber base in the Arctic, where infected foxes once ended a secret outpost. The Allies had abandoned fuel caches that still leak decades later. Every time mankind has reached into the polar silence for power, it's paid a price. The hidden Japanese base, then, isn't just a curiosity. It's a reminder of how far desperation can drive invention and how easily ambition turns into hubris. Beyond the metal and machinery, there's a human story. Imagine the men who built that base, young soldiers and engineers, trapped between obedience and survival. They watched as the world they fought for began to crumble. Their supply lines cut, their radios fading. They became ghosts long before the ice claimed them. Did they believe their mission still mattered? Did they hope for rescue? Or did they know deep down that the snow would become their grave and their legacy? One fragment of evidence, though never verified, is often cited by researchers. A torn page from what appears to be a wartime field journal, allegedly recovered from a private Japanese collection. Dated August 1945, it reads, "The snow closes around us. The air grows thin. We transmit, but no reply comes. If we do not return, let this ice preserve our proof that we lived." Whether real or forgery, the words capture the haunting stillness of that final moment. When science, duty, and human will all froze together, the Arctic is the greatest archivist on Earth. Unlike soil, it doesn't rot or decay, it preserves. Woolly mammoths emerge with flesh still intact, ships resurfaced as if time paused mid-voyage. So when experts say the base may still exist, they don't mean ruins. They mean a time capsule, a sealed world, trapped in ice, waiting for the right moment to reawaken. Somewhere beneath those endless fields of white, history sleeps in its purest, most dangerous form. In 2021, European satellites equipped with ultra-deep radar picked up several anomalies at depths unreachable by previous generations of sensors. 3 metallic signatures aligned in a perfect triangle, symmetrical, deliberate, and man-made. The discovery reignited the debate. Was this Kogo Kichi? If so, how had it survived intact? The precision was too refined to be natural. The data was quietly sent to a coalition of universities, and then, like so many times before, the files vanished from public record. Officially, Japan maintains no active exploration in that region beyond climate research. Unofficially, shipping logs reveal something curious. Japanese icebreakers making repeated passes through northern routes, far from commercial lanes, under scientific cover. Historians believe these missions may have a dual purpose: collecting data not just about melting ice, but about what the melting might soon expose. That's it. The Arctic is changing faster than any place on Earth. Ice once thought eternal now fractures each summer. Glaciers retreat, exposing rusted wrecks, forgotten camps, even old fuel drums untouched since the war. As global temperatures rise, the coordinates linked to Kogo Kichi inch closer to the surface each year. The countdown is natural, unstoppable. One day, the ice will melt enough to reveal what human hands built so long ago, and whether it was worth hiding in the first place. To uncover Kogo Kichi would not just rewrite history, it would raise uncomfortable questions. Why was it erased from Japan's post-war record? What truths were too dangerous to face? And what happens when nations discover that their past still lingers beneath the ice? For every discovery, there comes responsibility. And for every truth unearthed, a reckoning. The silent base beneath the ice might not just be a relic of war, it might be a message. A frozen echo saying, "We went too far." It's a physical reminder that every empire eventually builds something it cannot control, something that outlives its intentions. The men of Kogo Kichi are gone, but their work, their fears, their inventions, their final breaths remain sealed in crystal time, waiting for descendants who may finally understand. If Kogo Kichi still stands beneath that glacier, for today's scientists, Kogo Kichi sits at the crossroads of myth and measurable fact. The evidence is there: metallic readings, coordinates, journal fragments. But the full truth remains elusive. Some researchers have devoted entire careers chasing this legend, while others refuse to speak its name, fearing political backlash or scientific ridicule. Yet the base's pull endures, like a magnetic field on the human imagination. Proof that even in an age of satellites, mystery still survives. Perhaps Kogo Kichi was never meant to be found. Perhaps its builders intended it as a warning, not just to enemies, but to future generations. In the depths of war, they had seen how far humanity would go for power. By sealing their creation in ice, they may have ensured that the world would remember without repeating. The Arctic, in that sense, became both grave and guardian, holding the evidence of ambition too dangerous to touch. Today, the winds sweep endlessly across the frozen expanse. Beneath the shifting snowdrifts, the metal groans faintly, or maybe that's imagination filling the silence. No one knows what truly lies under the endless white, but those who've studied the satellite data, those who've heard the stories, feel it. Something is down there, waiting, watching, preserved not by time, but by purpose. If one day, as the world warms, the ice finally parts and reveals Kogo Kichi, humanity will face a choice: to dig, to study, to claim, or to leave it as it is, a monument to both brilliance and madness. The hidden Japanese base under ice is more than a legend. It is a mirror reflecting the human desire to control nature, to hide truth, and to outlast defeat. And maybe, as the last frost melts away, we will finally learn that some secrets are not buried to be found, but buried to remind us of what should never be repeated. In 2024, seismic instruments in the Arctic recorded a low, rhythmic vibration, faint but persistent, emanating from deep beneath one of the known glacial trenches near the supposed coordinates of Kogo Kichi. At first, scientists blame shifting ice or geothermal activity, but the pattern repeated every 37 hours, too structured to be natural. Was it machinery still running? A collapsing chamber releasing pressure? Or just the planet remembering what humanity left behind? No one could explain it, and soon the data logs mysteriously vanished from the research servers that recorded them. Every glacier tells a story. In its layers are trapped centuries of atmosphere, dust, and human fingerprints. If Kogo Kichi truly lies below, its story is still being written in those frozen pages. When scientists melt samples for analysis, they find traces of post-war soot, remnants of radiation, and even fragments of long-dormant spores. It's as if the ice itself has been recording human history, including the secrets we hoped would disappear. The Arctic doesn't forget. It archives. And one day, it will show everything. Somewhere, perhaps miles below the surface, lie the remains of the last men of Kogo Kichi. Their tools still waiting, their mission unfinished. Maybe they never intended to be found. Maybe they believed that by sealing themselves away, they were burying humanity's darkest ambitions forever. But history has a way of rising again, one thaw at a time. Whether myth or memory, Kogo Kichi is not just a place beneath the ice. It's an idea that truth can be delayed, but never destroyed. And when the world finally uncovers it, the question will not be what we find, but whether we're ready